Alright, the new Shojodoji is here, so let's begin. But first, a new card of the day. So, to our new Maelstrom support card, Marclasm Dragon, which is a grade 2 with 10k power, and it's a tier dragon, so that's gonna be very important. But the skill is, auto, when discard from hand during your turn, if you have at least a grade 3 Maelstrom, cost energy blast 2, call this card to rearguard. Discard fodder for Maelstrom, that is very nice, especially when it could be for the ride deck as well. And since Maelstrom doesn't use energy, this is actually pretty cheap, especially since you kinda net 1 energy per turn with this. But the second skill is Count Rearguard Guardian. If your order zone has a Blue Storm Marta card, this card gets intercept from the back row along with 5k power and shield, active on your opponent's turn as well. Just pretty good overall since Maelstrom does need the discard fodder that also pluses yourself, which is also really good. And the fact that it's using energy instead of like the other resources is also very nice because the deck doesn't really use energy. And the part where it's a 15k beater along with a 10k shield is also very nice. And it's a tier drag. Definitely helps out with the deck's board problems. And then to the Tuesday stream itself, here are the heal promos for Kagero and Granblue. Not going over their main skill, but just know that they're just the heal fodders. And now to the new Shojodoji support. We start with Stealth Beast Rakurai, which is grade 1 with AK power in the skills. Auto rearguard when this card boosts, if you have at least a grade 3 Shojodoji, put a card from your hand to soul, and choose one of your opponent's face-up cards in the bind zone and put it to the drop zone. Basically permanent loss at that point, because the whole point of Shojodoji is bind your opponent's stuff, so they temporarily lose it, like Nubatama, and then they go back to the hand at the end phase. But with these type of cards, they basically just go to permanent loss. Not sure if they need more of these, especially when there's some that can shuffle to the deck. Next, Fleekin Stealth Rogue Kinran, which is grade 1 with power and skills. Auto rearguard. At the end about this unit boosts, if you have at least a grade 3 Shojodoji Vanguard, put 2 stealth units from the same column as this unit to soul, aka this card along with the other one. Choose a grade 2 or greater unit with stealth in its guardian from the drop zone and put it back to your hand. Just very helpful that this card can recycle along with putting stuff to soul, because you're going to be soul binding. But overall, pretty good. Next, Stealth Dragon Ojijichi, which is grade 2 with 10k power in the skills. Auto, when placed on rearguard, look at the top 5 cards of your deck to choose one stealth card from among them and put to soul, and of course shuffle your deck. And if your opponent's Vanguard is at least grade 3 plus 5k into the end of turn. Basically, it's the same skill as the grade 1, except this one has an additional skill, and can be a decent alternative for a budget option if you need that soul charge for Shiranui or any other stealth deck that might come in. But anyway, second skill, auto, when placed to soul from rearguard during battle, cost counterblast 1, choose 2 face-up cards in your opponent's bind zone, put them to the drop, and you get this ability till the rest of the turn. All your front row units with stealth in their name kits was 5k. Not only that it can permanent loss your opponent's stuff, but giving a 5k buff to your whole front row is also very nice. And it can also soul charge you as well, so that's also pretty nice. And the condition itself is also very easy, considering that you can easily just suck your rear guards to soul. So overall, really good new support. Finally, to the new Shojodoji, Cloudwater Flitfoot Stealth Rogue Shojodoji, which is a grade 3 with 30k power, and it's counted as the original one, so meaning that you can still perform your persona rides on top of each other, but you're gonna most likely replace it because that's usually the sign of it. And the skill is Act Vanguard once per turn, costs Energy Blast 3, bind 3 stealth cards from your soul, and then choose 2 of your opponent's rear guards, bind all the chosen rear guards, and then your opponent chooses a card from their hand and bind it. And then at the end of turn, your opponent puts them back to the hand. So basically, it's like the original one, except it's more costly, but your opponent chooses an additional card from their hand. Because the original one requires you to bind 2 stealths, so it's easier to actually pay that cost in a way, but it's not without the energy because of course there was no energy at the time. But this time it's a 3 for 3 thing, and that includes your opponent's hand, so this actually might be a little better, especially with all the extra soul charging that you have. But the second skill, which is a huge improvement of the original, Auto Vanguard, when this card attacks or is attacked, put 2 of your rear guards to soul, choose up to 2 stealth cards from your bind zone and call them to rear guard, 1 from the front and 1 to the back. And keep in mind, they don't need to be in the same column. And if it's during your opponent's battle phase, call the chosen card to Guardian instead. So just like the original, it refunds your soul by sucking 2 of your rear guards, but the original only calls 1 unit with a 10k buff. This one actually is a 2 for 2, so that might actually be a little better, especially since you're going to be binding 3 from soul anyway. But this also added the fact that you can actually block on your opponent's turn. It could even be PG on your opponent's turn. And also keep in mind those additional skills that you might get from this superior call, which can be much more higher than the 10k buff. So overall, I say this one's a little better despite the first skill being a little more costly, but considering that all the support that you got, I'm pretty sure this is just going to straight up replace the original one. At most, I can only see the original one being used as the first ride option because Soul Binding 2 instead of Soul Binding 3. And finally, before we go, we got the reveal of Stride deck set for Harri and Nightrose. Not sure if I'm going to be getting these since I've been getting all the Stride deck sets, but these are not really my favorite decks overall, despite expecting them. And I am still wondering where is Altmile and Ahsha, because those two are more important than these two, but I can't understand why they made these two since it's season 2 or 3 importance. And finally, here's an image of set 4, and yes, we are getting a Destined showdown along with the Destined ones. And I think someone said that we're gonna get 5 Destined ones in this set, and then the next set is gonna include the 6th one. And the cover card itself is Destined One of Infinity, which looks like a Stoicheia unit, but it can be opposite of Fated One of Zero, because Zero and Infinity, meaning possibility the final Fated One could actually be the opposite of Miracles. Just curious how this is going to go down, especially with 6 more ride lines coming before they make any evolutions for both sides. And yes, Lyrical's in the set, yay. So that's it for the new Shojodoji and along with the new product reveals. What do you guys think of it? New Shojodoji? Pretty good. Pretty much straight up replaced the original one. Because of course it does the same but better despite being a little more costly. But with all the support, it should be easy. As for the new products, I'm just excited overall. Even the Strike deck set ones that I might not get this time. But set 4, oh my god, Destined Showdown, opposite of Fated ones already. And that cover unit looks pretty awesome. But on that, that's it for this, and see y'all next time.